speaks for organizations that want to light a fire under their people to perform at their peak. Although he was born with what some would call a physical challenge, Paul achieved his dream of playing college football by playing defensive end for the University of Toronto. During his presentation, you will learn how to tackle imposter syndrome and build self-confidence, learn how to leverage your strengths, understand the simple but vital 3-step process to create a winning mindset. Paul has used these principles to gain success in his life, whether it is winning martial arts tournaments, finishing his PhD in education, or writing his first book, The 2-Year-Old's Guide to Work-Life Balance, which releases on October 1st. A former semifinalist in the World Championship of Public Speaking, Paul has applied these principles in Toastmasters. This year, Paul, as a Toastmaster, has won the District 62 International Speech Contest. He won the District 62 Evaluation Contest, advanced to the second phase of the Accredited Speaker Program. He presented at 4 different district conferences. That's four district conferences. Most importantly, Paul earned his DTM. Paul is excited to share these principles with you. Let's get ready to hit hard. Please welcome Paul Artale.
Howdy. Well, against technical assistant, I want to start with a very important, deep philosophical question for you. Can you think of a movie that changed your perspective on life? What's that movie? Shout it out. I want to hear it. E.T., Rudy, what's The Godfather, The 10 Commandments. You're in it for the long haul now. I, like all of you, have a movie that influenced my life. The Karate Kid, Part 3. Raise your hand if you even know there is a Karate Kid Part 3. Yeah, they made it. And it wasn't good. It's terrible. It's so bad that halfway through the movie they just forget about Daniel's love interest. It's like, okay, she's moving to Colorado, it's over, right? They gave up, right? And Ralph Macchio was like 47 at the time making the movie. But one of the things I love about that series is Pat Morita, the actor who plays Mr. Miyagi. He's fantastic, and he's great in this movie. And at the very end, in typical Karate Kid movie fashion, there's a scene where Daniel's fighting the Cobra Kai in the tournament, and he's getting beaten up really bad. And they call a timeout. And he's sitting on the outside of the ring on the floor, because he got beaten up really bad, he can't stand. And he's sitting there, and he's crying to Mr. Miyagi. He's saying, I can't do it. It's too hard. This guy's better than me. I can't go on. I can't beat the Cobra Kai. And Mr. Miyagi says, focus. The best karate's inside you. It's time to let it out. And I love that moment. And that has really affected me in my life, because I think all of us here, no matter what we want to be successful at, the best is inside of us. And most of us haven't learned how to uncork that bottle and let it out. And for me, I face that on a daily basis. Because looking the way I look, I'm sure you can believe I've been told I can't do something once or twice in my life. I can remember being in 2nd grade in gym class, and the gym teacher wouldn't let me climb the rope, right, when I'm trying to climb. I remember going to the county fair as a kid, and the carny there wouldn't let me drive the bumper cars, because those are hard to steer, right? A couple of years ago, I heard those words from my wife when we moved into our new house. What does your house look like the day after a move? Yeah, right? Terrible. Ours was a disaster, too. For example, my beautiful brown lazy boy office chair, for some reason, was on the back porch. And not in the office. No problem. Take it there myself. I'd have it there faster than a speeding bullet. I was approaching that chair when Sherry emerged from the shadows. Did you need some help? You can't do that alone. Challenge accepted. I picked up that chair. I took it into my office. It only took me 47 minutes. And let me tell you, it was worth the deep scuffs I put on our brand new hardwood floor. The little hole I put in the wall was perfect for ventilation. Sherry was not as impressed. Ask for help. You're not Superman. That is we're strong. I can't fly. I don't have X-ray vision. I only wear tight blue spandex on the most special occasions. And my anniversary is June 28th, so woohoo! Getting the cake ready. But I am Superman. When you look like me, you feel you have to be. What I'm going to talk to you today, I'm going to share with you my journey in football and the 3 principles I learned from it. I'm going to share with you how I discovered what was inside of me and how I unleashed that in my life and on the world. But before we do that, before we get into it, this is an interactive speech. It requires a little participation. So throughout this talk, when I say the word hit, you need to reply as loud as you can with the word hard. Simple enough? Yeah. All right, we got to practice. Hit! Hard! Hit! Hard! We can do better than that. Hit! Hard! Hit! Hard! Just the man. Hit! Hard! Hit! Hard! Ladies, hit! Hard! Hit! Hard! The quad. Hit! Hard! Hit! Oh, okay, come see me afterwards. We're going to work on this. I hear that, and I get flashbacks to my days playing defensive end for the University of Toronto. Our head coach, Coach Howard, that was his motivational tool of choice. He would shout it to us everywhere, on and off the field. I liked it. I mean, I was a defensive football player, which you here in Pittsburgh can appreciate, right? I like smashing things. I liked it so much that when I became a football coach, I did that to my players all the time. I drove them crazy. And one day while I'm running them up and down the field, it dawned on me. This is more than a motivational slogan. This is a really good metaphor for overcoming challenges in life. You see, no matter who you are in this room, at some point, let's be honest, at several points, you're going to be blindsided by something you can't see. You're going to get knocked down to that ground, you're going to get hit. Hard! You got to stick with me. You got to be quick. And when you're down there, you've only got a couple choices. You can stay there. Hope it gets better. Cry, sulk. Let life pass you by. Or you can pick yourself up off the ground. You can dust yourself off. You can fight back with everything you got. You can hit! That was a little bit better. So my story starts in Toronto, Canada. I'm Canadian. I try not to make too many Canadian references in my speech, but it comes up. I'm born a little bit different. But from a young age, I really liked sports. Now, looking at me, what sport do you think people thought I should play? Track? You never see me run. Soccer? Yeah, soccer. Why soccer? You gotta use your feet, right? Like, you can just kick the ball around. Don't forget throw-ins, or if he wants to be the goalie, which I liked being the goalie. But the problem was, I only had to use my feet, but I never used it on the ball. I got kicked out of more games than I can remember. So I looked for another outlet. Now, this being a baseball-themed conference, I would be remiss to tell you that I did dabble in baseball for a little bit, right? I tried out for the Blue Jays, and that didn't work out as well as I wanted. They tended to win the World Series when I was a child. Not so much anymore. But I like sports, and in trying to figure out baseball, I came across a book. I remember it was 5th grade. It was like the Scholastic Book Club, and I got to choose one a month, right? Remember this? Okay. So, and it was Jim Abbott Against All Odds. Raise your hand if you know who Jim Abbott is. All right, someone shout out who Jim Abbott. Sir, over here. Who's Jim Abbott?
He's a pitcher. He only had, he didn't have a hand, one hand.
All right, good. And for the bonus question, what did Jim Abbott accomplish? Played the major leagues, one-handed major league pitcher, yes?
No hitter.
He threw a no-hitter. And as a child, that was awesome. You see, there was no internet back in the 80s, right? I mean, there were no communities where you could just Google people and figure it out. So for me, and especially in sports, there was no one that really looked like me. Jim was as close as it came. And if Jim could do it, I could do it, right? And I remember reading this book and all the possibilities, and all of a sudden, the world, everything opened up. And so then I remember, oh wait, first, before I go on to my story, if you want to pick up a really good book about Jim's story, this is like the kid's book, I don't know if it's in print, mine's beat up. But if you want a good book on Jim's story, it's called Imperfect. It tells the story of both his no-hitter and his entire career, from childhood all the way to retirement in the major leagues. Really good motivational, inspirational book if you want it. Good leadership lessons in it. But I remember I wanted to play sports, and then I saw something on TV called football. I was like, great. This sport, it rewards my ruthless aggression. And I remember thinking, this is a sport for me. I don't know how I'm going to get on a field one day, but I'm going to. Now, that took a lot of courage for me to do. Into high school, we actually had a team. I waited 2 years, or it took me 2 years to get the courage to even try out. I made it in my sophomore year. And during that year, I didn't get a lot of playing time. But when I did, I knocked the stuffing out of the guy. So says my coach. I mean, I believe everything he says. Great sophomore year. Senior year comes around. And my name's not on the list. I'm cut. Hit! Hard! Life goes on. I go off to college. I spent my senior year actually as a sports reporter for the newspaper and actually reported on this football team winning what was the equivalent of the city championship. And I went to college. I joined a fraternity. I did a lot of fraternity-ish stuff. Like raising money for charity. Yeah. Yes, I had a toga, and I once swallowed one goldfish, and it was an experience, but I was dumb, okay? But life went on. The only way I came close to a football field in college as an undergraduate was when I would sit on Saturday and watch I was at the University of Ottawa. I watched the University of Ottawa play. I watched them win a national title. And I remember sitting in the stands looking down and thinking, man, it'd be cool if they could be out there. It's not going to happen. I don't know how it could happen. But man, I miss putting the shoulder pads on. And then after I'm done my undergraduate, I'm in an after-hours establishment, and a friend comes up to me. Now, I'm from Toronto, and I'm Italian, so we all talk like the Sopranos. It's like, Paulie, hey, you still want to play football, right? Yeah. You know, there's a semi-pro team in town looking for big guys like you. You should consider it. Disclaimer. When you hear the word semi-professional next to a sport, it's code for beer league. I didn't care. In 5 years, since high school, I just wanted to play again. Now we're a month into practice. I go on the team, I'm on the team, and at the time I'm playing offensive line. You know nothing about football, just know that it's my job to protect the quarterback. Right, that's it. That's all I just got to protect the guy who throws the ball. I got a perfect block on this guy, right? I mean, I got a good low center of gravity, shoulders square to the ground, and boom. I have him in my sights. I've got full control of this man. So he tries to go around me. My arms moved with him. My legs did not. And just like that, I heard a snap, crackle, pop in my elbows. I got back and I finished the block. He never touched the quarterback. That's important. When I looked down, my arm had ballooned to 3 times its normal size. I couldn't open the door to my car with my right arm. And just like that, I thought my great comeback was over. Hit! Hard! Hit! Hard! Okay, not bad. I did what most sensible people would do in that situation. I went to a doctor and completely ignored her advice. I just took a lot of Advil and wrapped my elbow with more things than you could. I had a wrap, I had a sock, I had a pad. It was larger than the swelling. And I got through the next 3 months of camp. Now, our first game of the season came quicker than I thought. Our first game was against a team called the Longhorns. They'd won 6 straight league championships. They won games by an average score of 65 to like 3. I was one of 2 backups on the offensive line. You know football, it's not a lot of backups. I know I'm playing. 10 minutes in, I get a tap on my helmet from my assistant coach. All right, it's game time. All right, 6 years, 5 years, whatever it's been. I'm ready to go up there and unleash this. As I'm about to step on the field, I feel a hand grab me. It's the hand of our head coach, who never showed up to practice. It's the beer league, remember? He pulls me aside, looks at the assistant coach and says, "This isn't the Special Olympics." He doesn't play. Hit hard! Hit hard! Tell me about it. What would you do in that situation? Me? I went back to the bench. I didn't sit on it, but I stood by it. I watched. I watched as we lost 62-10 that day. I watched as every player on that team got in but me. After the game, I listened to a bogus excuse that was for my health and safety. Because, 3 months of handling myself in practice to a coach who never even saw me play. That didn't seem to matter. As this is going through my head, I'm thinking, this is too difficult. Maybe I should quit. Hit hard! Hit hard! My wife likes to call me Superman or mock me that I'm Superman. After that game, I felt anything but. And as I was about to leave the stadium, one of our team captains, Jake, pulled me aside and said, "You deserve to be out there. Coach is going to see it. Until then, meet me 30 minutes before we practice. I'll make you a better football player." I didn't want his pity. Right? I didn't want his help. But for whatever reason, I was open to a second opinion. Superman, like all great superheroes, has a mentor, right? He has his father. Right? He goes to his fortress of solitude, nice crystal joy, and he sits there and he listens to his dad. I had something better. I had Joe. Joe's my cousin, 10 years older than me. He's an accountant by trade. There's not a single expense he can't write off on a tax return. At the age of 4, Joe was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. Bound to the chair. But as a kid, Joe taught me the 2 greatest powers you need to be successful in life are intelligence and a very dark sense of humor. I became a great storyteller because of Joe. Because he said, when people ask you about your arms and you're tired and tell them it's just because how you were born, make something up. Drunk people believe anything you tell me. Tell them. And he was right. They did. I called him up. "I gotta quit, Joe. Coach is never gonna play me." And after the game, the captain asked if he could help me. "I don't want people's pity. Just want to play." Dude, when your ego gets so big, you became too good to ask for help. I ask for help every day. There's no shame in it. Humble yourself. Talked about this for years. Finish what you started because I know you got it in you to do it. I didn't like it, but I met Jake 30 minutes before the next practice. You know what? Within 2 weeks, the entire team joined us. Jake turned my pity party into an excuse to build a more cohesive club. End of the season, I was a starter on that offensive line. End of the season, that coach who said that mean thing called me up and said, "I need an assistant coach for my high school football team. Are you interested?" End of the season, my teammates let me know that because I was enrolling in the University of Toronto for a 1-year special program, I was eligible to try out for the team. Hit hard! At that point, I had no qualms about trying out for the college team. It was not the easiest experience. Not physically. College football wasn't hard for me physically. I mean, it was all mental. For example, I went to training camp. Training camp was beautiful. We went to a nice campus, we had a satellite campus, beautiful rolling hills, and you had to walk 1.5 miles to the field and back. They did that on purpose. And I was in a townhouse with 3 other players. It was like a reality game show. After 2 weeks, I was the only guy left in that suite. And when I got back, we had something called the dress list. Now I wore number 64. I might as well have been 46, because in Canadian college football, you can only take 45 players to a game. I would go in for the first half of the season, and I would see my name in brackets. That meant they might go with me and they might go with someone else. First half of the season, it was someone else. Second half of the season, there's no bracket on my name. All of a sudden, I'm getting the shirt. And I'm wearing a jersey that I fought so hard for. The jersey I watched win a national title in '93 when I was just a young teenager. And it was all surreal. Hit! Hard! Hit! Hard! I spent the second half of the season traveling with the team, playing with the team. One of our games was at the University of Ottawa. And I found myself on the sideline, looking up at the seats I once sat in as a spectator. I thought, wow, what 6 years can do for your life. I didn't know I had it in me, but here I am. And I needed a souvenir to mark the occasion, so I did the only logical thing I could think of. I took the field turf and ripped a piece off and put it in my wallet. And I still have it to this day. Now, it's mainly pellets, but that's all I have, and I have a little Ziploc baggie in my house, and that reminds me of my experience. Hit! Hard! And after that, season's over. I have only one shot, right? This is a 1-year deal. I don't want to go do a master's degree at the time, although if I ended up doing a PhD, I wonder why didn't I just do it back then. But that's me and my therapist, we talk about that. But I get an award called the Bennett Award. It's where the players can overcome the most challenges. And the award was cool. My teammates voted on it, so it came from the team. And what's cool about that is not the award, though. I look at what names I'm next to, right? I look at the name above me is a guy named Derek Wheeler, 3-time All-Canadian, 2-time All-Star, #1 tackler in the league the year I played, right? Went to the CFL Combine. Name below me is a guy named Mike Goncalves, first guy to be drafted at the University of Toronto, the CFL, in I think 3 or 4 years at the time. Great athlete. I look above me, the guy's national title MVP. Our program dates back to the 1870s, right? So there's people that were like politicians and all these fantastic accomplishments, and there's my little scrub name. And I have a 5-year-old son, and one of these days I'm going to take him to the varsity center, and I'll make him look at that trophy, and look at my name, and say, no matter what you think is happening to you in life, there's always a way around it. There's always a way to get to where you need to go. You never give up. Hit hard! Hit hard! All right, that's my story. I tell it in a lot of ways, in a lot of versions. So what did I learn from it? It's cool, I have fun, I crack a lot of jokes. What were the things I learned that helped me after football? Because I made a lot of mistakes into that system. But man, once I was done, after my last game, I stood atop the bleachers at Varsity Stadium. I looked down at the 55-yard line in Canadian football, sorry. And I looked down and I was trying to make sense of it, like what did I learn from this experience? Because I was satisfied and confused all at the same time. I want to share with you 3 principles that you can apply in your life to reach whatever goal you want. And the first one I want to talk about is attitude. We hear this all the time. It's about, how do you create a winning mindset, right? How do you create confidence? How do you get to a point where you believe you can be successful? And my first point with this is you need to be unrealistic. Now, a lot of people push me on this point. They'll say, well, Paul, it's about learning what your boundaries are and not pushing those boundaries. I think that's the wrong attitude. I get realism. I think there's a fine line between not being realistic and being insane. But I don't know what that line is, and I don't want to know. I like pushing the boundaries. Now, what do I mean by being realistic? In my case, my goal was to play college football, and that was an okay goal. My goal should have been to be a #1 NFL draft pick. Now, why? Because if I wanted to be a #1 NFL draft pick, it would have changed how I ate. It would have changed how I hit away from it. It would have changed how I studied film. It would have changed how I looked at the game. It would have changed so many of my habits that even if I didn't make the NFL draft, and I didn't get drafted by an NFL team. I'm a 49ers fan, but I was settled for the Steelers. Not settle. I like the Steelers. I have no hate for the Steelers. They're not the Patriots. So it would have changed how I did everything in my football career. Am I happy with what I accomplished? Yes. Am I proud of it? Yes. Would I do it the same again? Absolutely not. I would change it in an instant. You need to be unrealistic. Set that goal as high and lofty as you can make it. Study what makes those who are successful, and emulate what works for you. You got to find your path, but you got to be unrealistic. Realism sets the bar too low, in my opinion. I got this from a book. I like books. You'll get a couple of book recommendations by taking. One of the first books I read out of college was a book. I just picked it up in a bookstore back when we had bookstores. Dr. Robert Schuller, the possibility of thinking. I love it. If it's going to be, it's up to me. And one activity he does in this book that I absolutely love is pick a goal, pick something you want to accomplish, and then draft a list of every single way you can accomplish it. It doesn't matter how silly it is, how unrealistic it is, how lofty it is. Just come up with as many possibilities to get to that goal as possible. And then once you're done your free draft, then go back and start ranking what's the best option. What are you going to start with first? And work your way around the list. It's really great. When I started competing in speech competitions, first year, my rookie season in the competitions, I got to the division in both in everything. The international, we had tall tales in my district, and evaluation. I got the division in all three. And I really wanted to go further in the international contest. So I started thinking about, how do I get there? What are different ways? And there were a couple, well, first thing I did, study the world champs. I realized all the world champs had gotten they had all gotten coaching from someone at some point. So I decided I need to get coaching. And then I thought about, how do I get to be a better speaker? I need to speak more, because at that point I was only speaking once or twice a month in my club. Maybe someone would invite me. So I needed to speak more. And I just started putting the list down. Then I said, well, maybe I can speak professionally, because that was one of my goals. I need to speak professionally more. And I started applying the principles, right? The possibilities became aware. And then when I got too comfortable saying, well, I always speak at Toastmasters coming from an education background, education groups. I'm like, well, you can start speaking to businesses, right? You start speaking to civic work. Get uncomfortable. And so I started just drafting that list of ways to do it. It's all about the possibilities. All right? And it worked for me, right? I mean, think about being unrealistic. I want you to think about, that's a picture of me winning the Bennett Award, and that's my name on a list. That list is the CFL draft list of 2003, okay? That's my name on there. I never intended, that wasn't a goal. I didn't even know I was necessarily on the list until the draft came up, and I was scrolling through seeing if my buddies were gonna get drafted, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I could get drafted. I wasn't gonna get drafted, but I could get drafted. And it's the coolest thing. You never know, but being unrealistic. So that's the first part of it. The second part is interactive, all right? So here's what I need you to do. You're gonna see a word on the screen. If you can't see on this side of the room, just follow along. I want you to repeat the following words after me. Ready?
I deserve to be here. I deserve to be here.
All right. Period. Exclamation point. Maybe an emoji next time. Thanks. It's all about how you think you belong in a space. I started a PhD program. I come from a master's program that wasn't very good. I was coaching college football at the time. They gave me a master's for coaching. I took it. I did it. I remember my first day of class, someone said, ooh, they're using big words in this class. I'm like, ooh, I'm in trouble. In a master's program, you're worried about 3-syllable words. And in my first day on a PhD program at Michigan State, and it's the #1 program in the country, and there's people all around talking about all their big academic chops. And I didn't believe I deserved to be there. And that attitude sunk in me. It's called the Imposter Syndrome. Many of us have heard about it. And I remember not believing in myself the first year. I mean, I did the work, grindstone, the possibilities were all there. But I remember not thinking about that. And then all of a sudden, one day, in my second year, a professor asked if I could help on a research project on something I was working on, a topic I was interested in, work-life balance. And I was like, me? Yeah, you. This is your expertise. You're good at this. You got to just do it. And all of a sudden, it started to change. And after that moment, I always vowed to myself I would never believe I didn't belong anywhere. even if I was uncomfortable, which is good, you want to be uncomfortable, that I would fight and change my mindset that I deserve to be there. They admitted me for a reason. They admitted me because they thought I could be successful. I had tools and experiences other people didn't have, and I started to recognize those. Here's something else I want you to repeat. Ready?
I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable.
You are unstoppable. The only thing that can stop you in life is yourself. It's your mentality. I was thinking the other day, I was on a health kick. I'm trying to drop a lot of weight. And I decided, it's easy to visit something, a good habit. It's hard to live there, right? It's easy to start a diet plan for 2 weeks and then leave it, right? It's harder to adopt, by dieting, like a real, like this is how you're gonna eat the rest of your life, not like eat 2 beans and a glass of water for a week, like a real diet. It's hard. But when you can be unstoppable, when you can just put your mind to it and say, nothing's going to stop me, it's going to be difficult, but I am going to keep moving forward, that's the attitude you need, all right? You will have setbacks. Nothing worth doing isn't gonna have a setback. If it's too easy, it's probably your goal's too low. If it's too easy, you're not being unrealistic. You need to be unstoppable. Hit!
Hard!
Here's the last part. Words matter. If you could describe, I want you to think in your mind, you don't need to share, I just want you to share this with yourself. Think of something that's important to you. It could be work, it could be Toastmasters, it could be yourself as a parent, whatever it is. What word would you use to describe yourself? I would hope most of you would have a positive, dynamic word. A word that changes how people would react if you were to share that word with someone. Unfortunately, a lot of us, we don't. We settle over, we become too modest, right? I remember for me in the PhD program, and even in football, in football I was like, I'm just a little scrub, I'm just here, I'm just trying to slog through, I'm the inspirational guy, right? That was the word, inspirational, I'm inspirational. It wasn't a bad word. As a child, that's what I grew up learning a lot of. It wasn't the word I wanted to use, though I shouldn't have used. And it was at the end of the season when I'm at the alumni reception, I'm talking to my assistant coach, and he says to me, you're a good athlete. I said, what? I said, Artale, you're a good athlete. You got good footwork. I said, you got a good low center of gravity. You understand the game. Don't sell yourself short. You're a good athlete. I had never referred to myself that way before. And all of a sudden, it changed my paradigm. I'm an athlete. I deserve to be here. This wasn't a fluke. I hung in, not just because I had heart, but because I had skills. What's the one word you want to define you? Are you there yet? And if not, I challenge you to write it down and put it somewhere where you're going to see it every single day. And compare yourself to it. And if you're not there, what's the step? What are the possibilities you can use to get there? Hit!
Hard!
All right, don't compare yourselves. I'm running short on time. Don't compare yourselves to other people. We talk about attitude. Your journey is unique. It is yours. Okay? It is unique and yours. Where you are compared to someone who you think, so Toastmasters, oh, I'm not a DTM yet, or I haven't got my CC, or this person's a really good speaker, I'm not. Don't compare yourself. It's about your journey and your process. All right, here's number 2. Leverage your strengths. I love this one. Now, what do I mean by this? When I was playing, I was an athlete, all right? And I had a lot of skills. One of the things I did not have was a fast twitch muscle in my body. If you see me run, I resemble Mr. Snuffleupagus. Okay? That's what Paul looks like when he's chugging along. And I remember working with my coach and my team captain at University of Toronto, trying to figure out a way. Early on, one of the coaches was like, we need to do all these elaborate hand techniques and all these different sort of manipulations. And I have a martial arts background, so I understood what he was trying to do. It wasn't always easy when you get half an arm compared to someone else trying to get in there. And all of a sudden, Coach Fletcher, my assistant coach, comes up to me and says, you got a good little center of gravity, you got a head like a rhino, put it down, and your job is just to shoot the gap really hard, just go in really hard, and then the defender's gonna, or the offensive lineman's gonna come, and then that'll help everybody else out on the team. Just do your job, like just shoot your gap, and stay low. And that's what I did. And the results went from barely, from kind of struggling to all of a sudden I'm in there and I'm making it happen. So you want to leverage your strengths. Too many times we focus on our weaknesses. Right? How many times have you ever had a job where they tell you to try and improve in an area that you don't care about or that you suck at? Right? And let's be honest, quite often they try, you go to a workshop on it, you work on it. In most cases, how much better do you actually get at that? Not really, right? I could work at being faster, and I would get faster. Would I get down to a 4.4 40-yard dash? Heck no. Heck no, even if I lost 100 pounds, it just wouldn't happen. But can I use my low center of gravity? Can I use my big, strong, ox-like legs to generate power and work on those and be more effective immediately? Yes. What are your strengths? You want to know your strengths. Who here has heard of the Clifton Strengths Finder? Raise your hands. Okay. Strengths Finder, if you don't know, it's a leadership assessment. Raise your hands if you've done some sort of leadership assessment, like DISC, Myers-Briggs, what piano player are you, whatever, right? Any of those Facebook, who are you in Hogwarts, any of those, right? Strengths Finder is an assessment. Over 20,000 people were interviewed, and they took leaders in industry and not-for-profit sector. And what they did is they took all these interviews, they correlate them, they come up with 34 leadership styles. So you take this assessment, it gives you the top 5. These are the 5 that come most naturally to you. I've done this assessment 3 times in the last 15 years, and 3 of my 5 are always there. And number 1 for me is always competition. All right, which makes sense, right? But it tells you that it's consistent. I've had colleagues have a similar experience, right? It's a great tool to understand what your leadership strengths. So a lot of what I'm talking about is my physical challenge, right? This is a story about coming over physical adversity. But a lot of our adversity, it's internal, right? It's different. It's about our mindset. It's about things that we're trying to figure out ways to get around it. One of the ways to help do that is to figure out what your strengths are, right? Figure out what you do best, how you think, how you act, how you react to situations, how you can leverage that to get where you need to be. So what do I mean? This is Patty. She's one of my clients, did a strengths assessment with me. I do take the test. I do a 1-hour call with you, and we go over the results. And Patty was not sure what she fit in as a leader. She was kind of shy, right? She's a little reserved. She had an idea that a leader needs to be gung-ho, right? I am the leader. I wear the special badge, and I shake your hand when you come to a meeting. I am the president, right? That's what a leader must be. And she came to me, said, I really want to do the Strengths Finder assessment. I think it's a really cool tool, and I want you to do it. And I want to do it to you. And we did, and we did this session, and it was great. And then I didn't hear from Patty for a few months, and I ran into her at a conference. And I said, how you doing? We were catching up. She said, I love the Strengths Finder tool. She said, ever since I did that, I reflect back on my 5 strengths and how I can utilize them. She said, I'm more confident. She's a Toastmaster as well. She said, in my club, I had I did it with my club. I had them do it, and now on my board, we sort of leverage each other's strengths. We play off of it. And she goes, here's the cool thing. She goes, in my job evaluation, I used my strengths to realign what my job should be. So I found the areas of strength that fit well with me and said, I should do these duties because I'm really good at them. And maybe we should not do this. And she was analytical, so she analyzed. She said, this is just a deficiency in what we're doing, so let's just not do that. She actually was able to use the Strengths Finder to craft her experience. It's a great tool. And so thinking about what are your leadership strengths and how can you get there? And so for me, I like to work with people on strengths. It's one of the things I have a lot of fun with. Normally this is what I would charge if you were to come to me. The assessment's $20. A couple $100 for this session. Usually when I do with leaders. But you're Toastmasters. I don't want to charge you a lot of money. So if you it says today, it's the conference package. It's a typo. Today's package is $97. If you really want to work with me and you're committed, if you come to me within the 20 minutes after this session, I'll give it to you for $85. Okay, $85 if you come to me between now and whenever the first session starts. I don't want you interrupting the next sessions, right? So once we're done here, all right? Hit hard. Hit hard. All right. Here's the third one that I love the most. Embrace the process. You're probably asking yourself, Paul, what the heck is this process? Here it is. All right? You have an experience. You get feedback, and you analyze that feedback. And then you apply the feedback. And then you do it all over again. It's a really simple process. In Toastmasters, it kind of looks familiar, doesn't it? Or it should look familiar. When I compete in the World Championships, I guess this year is the same thing. I remember the first time I did it, I went to 4 or 5 clubs a week to practice my semifinal speech. All I did was get feedback, right? And I had to sort through the feedback, and then I had to apply it. And the key was, this is the step we often don't take, whether it's Toastmasters or in life. We don't often go back to the first step and apply what we've learned. That was a good experience. Oh, that really sucked. That was not the greatest thing in the world. And then all of a sudden, all right, well, that was done. I'm not gonna apply it. Or maybe it was a negative experience. We're afraid to apply it again. You've got to put yourself back to step 1 every single time. For us in football, it's great. Another thing I love about sports, it teaches you this really well because we have something called film, right? You watch film all the time, which is why if you ever watch me, like whenever one of my sports teams is winning, I'm never happy because I'm analyzing the game so much and I just see the little flaws. But after a game, you watch the film, you coach your players on how they can get better, and then at the next practice, you apply that, right? And you make sure they get better. It's a continual process. What's great about this process, here's the positive to this process. You stop seeing things in terms of wins and losses. You only see things in terms of growth. You only see things in terms of growth. Winning, quote unquote, is okay. You want to be successful, but that's not what drives you. What drives you is continuous improvement. And the byproduct is what we call success. The byproduct is winning. The byproduct is a set of experiences that we didn't anticipate would come to our door, but they did. I didn't anticipate being a college football coach. That wasn't my goal. But once I was done, I said, you want to coach? You got a good analytical mind. I said, sure, that would be awesome. I spent 5 years every Saturday on a college football field. Some of the best years of my life. Then I got married. All right, so. No, my marriage is great. She supported me through it all. All right, but it changed my perspective. It's the byproduct of this process. But here's the downside to the process. It can make you uncomfortable. Because it means you have to be vulnerable. When I started speaking, talking about my life in football, I was uncomfortable every single time. What would they say? I never had a great college football career. People called me like the Canadian Rudy, which is cool, because that's one of my favorite movies. Rudy's first play from scrimmage is a lot more glorious than mine, let's just say that. All right, he gets carried off the field. I didn't get carried off the field. I had to carry the bags after the game, right? There was no, but I realized audience didn't care about that. They wanted my story, right? What happens when I tell them I failed? Maybe they can't resonate that. Well, people all of a sudden were resonating more with that than the actual success. But it forced me to be vulnerable and to be uncomfortable. But without that discomfort, without that pain, there is no progress. Without that pain, there's no progress. Who here started a fitness routine after a long hiatus? Yeah. What does it feel like the day after? So yeah, you're in pain, right? But if you stick to it, right? If you don't visit that routine, but you live in that routine, what starts to happen? You get results. It becomes less painful. You become comfortable, and all of a sudden you come to a fulcrum where you have to say, do I want to push myself more? Or do I want to stay with where I'm at? There's no growth without if you walked into a gym and you got the 2-pound dumbbell and started curling, all right, unless that's where you're at physically, you're not going to grow. And so you got to think about that. You got to challenge yourself. I love being uncomfortable. I love it. I do it all the time. Last night, you guys were disco dancing. Someone forced me to disco dance. I was uncomfortable. All right, and if there's footage of that, delete it. I might want to run for Congress one day. Okay, so, but I was uncomfortable. I was 25 years old. I walked on a college football player. Every single guy had been all-city, had been a team captain, and won numerous awards. They were first team all-state. I was first team right bench, right? I was uncomfortable. The first time I lined up against a player was a guy named Anthony Forgione. All right, he was 6'4", 320 pounds, 90% muscle, 10% steroids. I was uncomfortable. 5 years ago, a nurse put a young baby into my hands and said, congratulations, Mr. Artale, you are now a father. Wow. I didn't do any of the hard work on that one. I was in love and extremely uncomfortable. Where can you put that comfort zone? What does that mean for you? And what's the first step you're going to take to push yourself forward? Where's the first pain point? Hit! Hard! Hit! Okay. On your table, you will see a couple of sheets. Oh, you see one sheet. It will look something like this. It's a testimonial form. Speaking of being uncomfortable, one thing I'm very uncomfortable with doing is asking for help. That's why I have lots of holes in the walls and furniture that sort of ends up in random places in my house. The testimonial form is very simple. If you are part of an organization or know of an organization that could use my speaking services and you like what you saw here today, put the information down. Come see me. I'm here all weekend and we'll talk about it. But please put it down so I can follow up. If you just want to be in touch with me, there's a sign up for the newsletter. I have a newsletter I put out every month. And of course, is just you want to leave some beautiful comments for marketing purposes, please do that as well, okay? And for those who don't want to write testimonials, you like video, you want to be YouTube famous, if you give me 30 seconds-ish of video time over the course of this weekend, and you like this presentation, I will give you, this is the Hit Hard audio download. It's a live presentation I did in front of another crowd. It's actually different, a little bit different from this one. I'll give that to you free. Take the card home, you download it instantly, it's there. So if you're interested in the video testimonial, I'll give you this card for free. So please, I'm on a mission to spread my message to the world. I really need it, but I need help doing it. I learned I can't do it in a vacuum. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. I tried that the first couple of years. I'm a stubborn guy. All right, I tried the first couple of years. It doesn't work. My possibility list, I have to ask. That was like number 1 on my possibility list. Hit hard. All right, so let's put it all together. Let's put it all together. All right, you have a challenge in your life. You want to overcome it. Earlier I mentioned I joined a fraternity. And you laugh because fraternities do a lot of funny things. But for me, my fraternal experience before I played football had a monumental shift in how I viewed things. And being Superman, it was actually the first time I flew. Now, as a fraternity leader, in my sophomore year, I applied to what we call the Leadership Academy. And I was stoked because it was in Miami. I thought Florida, turned out to be Ohio. Who knew? I was this Canadian kid, right? But it was awesome. I got to be with these great other fraternity leaders at my age. We got to network. And one of the things we did that day was a challenge course, a ropes course. Raise your hand if you've ever done a ropes course. A few of us. Okay. So team building, you do a bunch of exercises. You do a little trust fall stuff, and there's like balance beams. And then as you progress through the day, challenges get a little bit harder and more complex. And we were about halfway through the day, and we came to a challenge. It was a very simple challenge. It was all 25 of us sitting on a wooden platform, or standing on a wooden platform. And across from us, about 20 feet or so, there was another wooden platform, identical. And between those two platforms was a big burlap rope. A bit of a problem. I don't like ropes. Remember, I couldn't even climb them in gym class. And I did something I characteristically don't do. Like the disability card. My brothers, can't do this one. I got a bad history of ropes. I am going to sit it out. But I will cheer you on because I am a good brother. And if we could hurry it up, it's lunchtime, and I heard they're serving ribs. I was met with silence. And then one of our brothers, T-Bone, from Texas, obviously, steps out. Artale, you ain't getting off that easy. You're going to swing on that there rope. And you're right. They're serving ribs. Honey glazed, I believe. And all of a sudden, the entire brotherhood started trying to figure out ways for me to swing on this rope. And we tried everything, right? Tie it around your waist, and we just tie it around your neck, right? How are we going to do this? What if you piggyback on T-Bone, right? Like, how's it going to work? And all of a sudden, we're in a wooded area. They went through the woods, and they picked up this big log, and they tied it to the bottom. T-Bone looked at me and said, Artale, sit on that rope and swing. I'm hungry. And I sat on that log, took a deep breath, prayed to God it would hold me. And whoosh, swung. All of a sudden, something I thought was possible, or impossible, was possible. My paradigm shift. Because because it was physical, I learned that I needed to push my limitations. And when I had the opportunity to play football again years later, I thought back to that moment. And I thought, well, I'm older and I don't have the, I'm not in shape the way I used to be. And I remember that day on the platform. Hit hard! That platform is relevant to all of us. You see, at some point, we could be the person sitting there trying to find an excuse not to attempt something so it will make them uncomfortable because they are scared. And more often than not, we're actually the people on the outside, watching this person struggle. And we have a choice to make. Do we accept that excuse, or do we push them to get them to a higher level? And I know I'm making it sound like an obvious choice, but it's not always obvious. They could have either said, hey, Paul, we understand we're an inclusive fraternity, we're an inclusive brotherhood, and we respect your decision. But they saw what was inside me. They saw that the reason I was saying no wasn't because of capabilities, because of mentality. And as leaders, we need to recognize that and push others forward. By pushing others forward, we actually improve our leadership practice as well. Because yeah, guy swings on rope, not going to be a major motion picture. Well, but Brad Pitt is the guy who swung on the rope. I can't even get a cameo on like Fuller House, right? Like, it's not going to do much. But it changes everything about how you interact with people. It changes everything with how you approach an obstacle in life. Hit hard! And that's it. No matter who you are in this room, I want you to think about what is the one challenge you're struggling with right now. Ask yourself, what's my attitude towards it? What's one word I can use to change my mindset on it? How can I leverage my strengths to get there? Am I really being uncomfortable? Mike, John, what do you think? Am I really being uncomfortable? And if not, what's the next point to do that? Humble yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Go after it. Understand that whatever you need to succeed is already inside of you. It's there. Go out and get it. And if you can't, or you're struggling, I want you to remember two words. I want you to remember, hit hard! Hit hard! Hit hard! Hit hard! It's not just my catchphrase. It's a philosophy. It's a way of life. I'll see you at the rest of the conference.